Al, it's time to pull out your right hand and go.
No, don't make that sound. Don't make that sound at all. Yuck.
That's what the hand does in this episode.
No, it goes.
Yep.
Gives them the suck.
Yep.
It does.
You're not wrong.
See.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode. Jared now watch Inuyasha is episode number 16. I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc Al and Ladium.
Hello.
We are discussing season 1, episode number 16 called Mystical Hand of the Amorous Monk, Miroku. And he goes,
No, don't make that sound. I don't like it.
So yeah, this is our Miroku debut episode, which I'm going to get into this right away.
Okay.
Because you were asking me something while we were watching this episode, because there is a bit of nudity in this episode.
There is some nudity in this
and
episode.
you were like, they probably had to cover that up when it had aired on Adult Swim, right?
Yeah.
It didn't air on Adult Swim.
Wait, they just didn't give Miroku an introduction?
They skipped this episode, apparently.
Oh my god. Man.
Because according to at least the fan wiki, episode 15 aired on December 7th. Episode 16 did not air. Episode 17 aired on December 14th.
Wow. So they just were like, well, time to not handle this at all. And then Miroku just shows up in the future and people are like, huh, who's this guy?
I'd imagine they probably did at least some recap at some point. That
you would have to.
Would have to just say, hey, here's who this guy is. But also, it's weird that they would just cut out this episode entirely, because they definitely, Cartoon Network specifically, had aired stuff, shows specifically, that would have dealt with the content matter that they had in this episode and found ways to edit around it.
Yeah.
They aired original Dragon Ball during the afternoon.
Right.
And that's got the same stuff in there, even more so.
Huh.
So it's very weird that this would be the one they're like, oh, no, I don't know about this. Unless this wiki is wrong and we were just talking about this for no reason, it could be the case as well. But it also would not surprise me, given the time period of when this show aired originally, that the network executives would look at this and be like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, nah. Let's go to the next episode. Might as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some kind of recap. I don't remember. I mean, it's been ages since I watched this originally, and obviously I've watched it since then multiple times.
And those original Adult Swim versions are lost to time, so
yeah.
So there's no real easy way to go and find oh, how did they do this?
Yeah.
So
shrug shoulders, but
shrug
yeah,
shoulders.
You would miss some really important stuff in this episode if you lost it, such as the introduction of Miroku, but also the introduction of a very important character that will totally not be significant in the series, and also an explanation on what the heck happened with Kikyo and Inuyasha.
Well, yeah, there you go. That's why they had to cut this episode, because there's nothing important in this episode.
Just boob jokes and Shippo being a nudist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's dive into the episode proper.
Okay.
We begin Kagomi's drinking water.
Yep.
And Shippo's like, hey,
Shippo
dog,
are
you
drinking.
all right? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. And Inuyasha
I mean,
is
that's fair.
oh, boy. Oh, boy.
He's just brooding.
Oh. Will I ever truly forget her? Meanwhile, a young monk is around.
Yeah, he's got two paths. He's trying to get the divine spirit to tell him which way to go, and he is currently leaning right.
And then he hears some people talk about there's a rest home nearby with beautiful women, and he's like, "Oh, I guess I gotta go this way."
Just moves it with his foot. It's like, oh, divine intervention. To the left it is. I did warn you before we started this episode what kind of character Miroku is.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong. He gets very bummed because the women are not up to his standards.
Yeah. He does get sweets though, so like that's pretty cool.
It's cool. I like sweets.
I like sweets too.
Who doesn't like sweets? He learns about a statue. He's like, look at this statue. I gotta get out of the statue. Get out of here. Let me look at the statue.
He learns about the daughter, and he's like, daughter. Interesting. Wow, Mr. Lord Man, you have lots of money here, huh? That's pretty significant. Anyway, I gotta talk to a statue. You GTFO. Don't don't even come here, even if the sounds sound crazy. Don't just stay.
He performs an exorcism, quote
Yep.
unquote, which is just him taking out a demon,
Yep.
which has a piece of the Shikon jewel.
It's a weasel.
A weasel.
A weasel.
And then he's like, all right, I'm out of here.
Yeah, and he just steals everything, including 3 horses.
As you do. And then he goes to a hot spring. And he's just like, oh, I didn't get that much money. What a bummer. And then he hears people, and he sees Kagome bathing. And he's like,
oh, he does
whoa.
get a Shikon jewel shard,
Yes.
though.
Yeah.
Anyway, he sees Kagome bathing.
He sees Kagome, and he also sees the Shikon jewel that's hanging from her neck. He's like, whoa, there! It's huge!
Yep. Yep. Yep.
He's like, look at them, Himmer Ha jewel shard. Man, that's real big.
I mean, that's basically what happened.
Hoofa
Yeah.
doofa.
Amazing.
And then he hears other voices like, oh, no, she's with other people. Dang. And then Kagome's like, hey, guys, don't look at me. He's like, I'm not going to. And then Shippo's like, I'm just going to get naked.
Yeah, Shippo just gets naked. He's like, junk out. Let's go.
And he's like, why aren't you coming in, Yasha? And Yasha's like, I'm brooding over here.
Also, you can't bathe with women.
Exactly.
And Shippo's like, oh, obviously you haven't gotten very farther. I don't know what that actually means, but people say it all the time, so you haven't done it. And Inuyasha's like, oh my god.
Dunked. Kagome yells, and Inuyasha comes to her aid, but there's just like some monkeys pulling on her hair. And she's just like out of the water entirely. And he's like, uh-oh.
Sees her naked.
Naked. It's not the first
Naked.
time.
No, it's not the first time. It will not be the last either.
Mm-hmm. Miroku is also just like, ah, bummer.
There's a guy.
I hate having to resort to violence. Sad. And then the next day they all come together.
Yep.
Miroku's like, I'm gonna steal this Shikon jewel. And also kidnap Kagome. Be like, oh, hello. I'm gonna ride this bicycle that apparently I just know how to ride.
It was wild. It was like, how does he know how to ride this bicycle? Bicycles don't exist.
He's that magical. And then he just dumps Kagome and it's like, aha, I have the jewel. See you later, suckers, and just rides off. As you do.
Also, there is a point where Inuyasha like gets away from the Tanuki guy, and he's like gonna come back up to Miroku. Miroku's like, how about no? And uses something with his hand.
His hand goes, I'm not gonna make the sound. So yeah, he gets away, and then they're like, we gotta chase after him. So Inuyasha just sniffs the ground until he finds his scent, and they just chase after it. Because as you do. And then he just bursts into this like one place, and he's got all these ladies around him, and he's like, oh, fancy meeting you here again. Oh, look at this beautiful lady. I must go to her. And Inuyasha's like,
I'm real mad. Because I'm Inuyasha. Meh.
After Inuyasha gets mad, they have to fight again.
Yep.
And Inuyasha's attacks are not working.
Mm-hmm.
But he's able to knock out the staff out of Miroku's hand because he slips on some logs.
Woo!
Yeet. And then he's like, get the villagers out of here. Go out of here. You don't want to be here when this happens. And then he makes a wind tunnel.
He does. He freeze the...
He wants to see how aerodynamic Inuyasha is.
It's true. Yeah, he removes the prayer beads on his hand, and also the covering that he has on his hand.
Mm-hmm. And Kagome's like, it's like a black hole. It's giving everything the suck. She also figures out, like, oh, he doesn't want to hurt humans. That's why he made everyone kind of dip out.
So she eats herself.
Yes.
He closes it. He doesn't want to kill her.
No.
And she's like, oh man, he actually closed it. Maybe he's not all that bad. And then he like grabs her butt.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, kill him. Kill him. So everyone kind of calms down for a bit, and then Miroku's like, hey, you want to know about some backstory? I got some backstory I could tell you guys.
It's important.
Let me tell you about Naraku,
Mm-hmm.
who's this demon who can shapeshift, basically, or just change into different forms, or become a different person, essentially.
You'll find out.
That kind of gist, as we learn here. He cursed Miroku's grandpa with the wind tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
They fought a lot, and then it didn't go well. He also says that basically, if he doesn't kill Naraku, the wind tunnel will basically just suck him up.
I mean, that's
Him
what's
being
happened
Miroku.
to his grandpa and his dad. They both got sucked up by the wind tunnel.
I hate when he gets sucked.
Yep. I'm sure Miroku would never actually say that, but
Oh, no, for sure. He tells them that also he thinks Naraku is probably gathering shards of the Shikon Jewel as well, so he can become more powerful and everything. And he was also almost successful in attaining the jewel 50 years ago, and he slew the priestess who had been protecting the jewel. And Inuyasha's like,
a priestess, you say?
So Inuyasha kind of puts two and two together and thinks that Naraku was the person who disguised himself as Inuyasha to kill Kikyo, which led to all of the shenanigans we got into last episode and everything. And then he also probably did the same thing with him. So he makes them all think they deceived each other. So he's like, I want to mess this dude up.
I'm going to cause chaos for no reason.
Kagome tells him that if they keep looking for shards, they'll probably just eventually run into him anyways. And she's like, oh, Miroku, you should just come with us then. But I'm so accustomed to being on my own.
I'm a loner.
And then he's like, okay, I guess, I'll come with you. As long as you bear my son. So if I die, he'll carry out revenge. And Kagome's like, huh? What do you mean? What? No.
I'm not going to have your baby.
And Inuyasha's like, don't ever touch her again. No.
I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I thought you guys were just traveling together. But you're actually in love with her. I'm sorry.
No, he's just a jewel detector.
No, she's a jewel detector.
Oh, yes, you're right.
And Kagome gets mad, like, that's all I am to you?
Yep.
Basically just like that.
Yep. And that's how this episode ends.
Yeah, now we have Miroku on the team.
Too hot for American television.
Apparently, they're just like, oh man, we can't show that Shippo junk or the boob jokes. We can't do that.
I mean, the boob jokes would have been fine. It's on Adult Swim. That would have been airing after midnight.
I mean, she just like is basically naked, that part. But
look, there's been worse scenes in this show, or at least scenes that have been basically the same.
There have been. I mean,
So-
honestly, the turning point here is that Shippo was naked and they didn't want to censor that.
Yeah.
Even though, like,
I will say OG Wikipedia does say that the show aired on English television, so maybe it did air and just the fan wiki doesn't have it listed for whatever reason.
so maybe they did censor, but we'll never know because it's, like you said, lost.
Yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, let's get into some notes and differences.
Okay.
Hey, Jen, this is the first appearance of Miroku.
I did know that, actually.
Wow. Shippo lacks understanding about why men and women bathe separately because he's a fox and
He's a baby.
yeah, he's just like, I don't get it. Also, Shippo mentions about his mother, a subject that has not been explored through in the series.
Yeah, dude, like, he's like, oh, my mom and dad, they bathe together all the time. It's like,
Yeah, there's a reason for that, dude.
yeah, that's how you exist, buddy.
Even though Miroku was only a few yards away from her in the hot spring, Kagome failed to detect the Shikon shard he was carrying.
That's a good point, actually.
This is the first appearance of the Tanuki Hachimon. It seems Miroku knows immediately how to ride a bicycle correctly, as you were saying, even though they wouldn't be invented for another 300 years or so.
I'm glad somebody else noticed that.
Yep. Inuyasha starts displaying jealous behavior when it comes to Kagome in this episode. I think he's already been displaying jealous behavior.
He's already had jealous behavior. I don't know what this is about. That's a lie.
That's not new.
No.
This episode is the first mention of Naraku.
Mm-hmm.
Do you smell what Naraku is cooking?
Oh, no.
Dwayne Naraku Johnson.
Doid.
Doy. That's a joke like no one's going to get.
Maybe somebody who has listened to both.
Yeah, if you're a long time listener, then you will get that. But that's as deep a cut as you can get.
Doi Naraku Johnson. Is that what we're gonna call him now?
Yep.
All right. Cool.
And then finally, this episode explains Kikyo's death and the reason for the discrepancies in her and Inuyasha's stories of what took place.
Ooh.
And then finally, differences. The scene with Miroku Take two. The scene with Miroku Take three. The scene with Miroku searching for his next place to go is anime exclusive.
The one where he's like moving it with his foot.
I would assume that's the case.
Okay. Also,
there you go.
This is the first time I've realized that Miroku wears pants.
Do you think he was just going out dog out? I mean, that would make sense because
he's got a robe on.
He'd just be like, whip the robe off and be like, I'm ready to go.
Right. Like, it fits his character pretty well.
You're not wrong. I can see why you would think that.
Yeah, I just thought he had like the monk robe on, which he does correct people several times this episode. He's like, I'm not a priest, I am a monk.
I'm a monk.
But
I'm bald.
He's not bald. He has a ponytail.
He's got a rat tail.
It's not a rat tail exactly. It's a ponytail. It's just a very low, small ponytail.
There you go. That's going to do it for this week's episode.
Yep.
Next time, we will be discussing episode number 17 called The Cursed Ink of the Hell Painter.
Yeah.
Stuff will happen there. I don't know.
I'm sure that there will be painting.
I'm sure there will be. But that's going to do it for this episode. For more from us, you can head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a cool podcast. You also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you want more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/animecheckup. Buy our books, One Shining Moment, A Critical Analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, and Hot Tubs and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And that's going to do it. So join us next time as we learn about why this ink is cursed and why this painter is the way he is.